Chicago Bears training camp has started, and day one had its standouts. We're going to talk about those standouts. Plus, Dennis Allen sends a warning shot already. And why did Ben Johnson pull the starting offense? We're going to talk about it all and more on today's Chicago Bears Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
Bears fans, welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Eric Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And we're going to talk about the standouts from day one of training camp. We got our things to get into with training camp overall. You know, Ben Johnson pulls the starting offense. Dennis Allen is on his defense already, which you love to see, you love to hear, right? Now, I know coming out of training camp, the day one, a lot of the things were made about Caleb Williams and the slow start of the offense. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to talk about it. But with that said, let's talk about the standouts from training camp. And reportedly, Tremaine Edmunds picking off Caleb Williams on the first play of the 11-on-11 drills. According to Zach Pearson from the Bear Report, he says that the pass was right over the middle, and it was a good start for Edmonds, who needs to improve after a disappointing 2024 campaign. We already know that Tremaine Edmonds is paid like he's a star linebacker. Now, the performance hasn't necessarily been that. Like I said, it's been a steady performance for the most part from Tremaine Edmonds since he's been a Chicago Bear, but it hasn't necessarily been what you expect per how he's getting paid. And so under Dennis Allen, and hearing Dennis Allen saying that he has high expectations for Tremaine Edmonds, saying this: I'm anticipating him being an exceptional playmaker for us. He's got size, he's got range, he's got speed. A lot of the things that we're going to look for in terms of it, it's hard to throw over him. He's got a lot of length. They're in the middle of the field. I'm excited to see what he can do. So, we'll see what happens there. The fact that Dennis Allen is somebody who still views Tremaine Edmonds as somebody who could be a key piece to his defense, I think just says a lot about the potential and the skill that Tremaine Edmonds does have there, and he that is there, right? It's been a little disappointing at times. It is what it is. That's per the contract. But Tremaine being a standout in day one in training camp, that's good to hear. Hopefully that continues into the season, because it'll make a lot of things easier on the Bears for sure. Jaylon Johnson was apparently a standout as well, right? According to Zach Pearson, again, he says that Johnson had a one-handed catch in practice. Johnson's someone who didn't have opportunities to catch the ball in 2024 as he operated in short yardage situations. He only had 20 targets, half as many as his rookie year. So it seems like Jaylon is a player that is already seeming how Ben Johnson is going to have a different plan for him than what Shane Waldron had for him last year. We had the call, last week from Darius, who talked about Jaylon and talked about how Jaylon Johnson could really be, if he's given more opportunities, more snaps, things like that. He's a guy that can produce. And, there are some people that are completely down on Jaylon. There are some Bears fans that still look at Jaylon Johnson as a player that under the right circumstance and given the right role can still be more than solid for the Chicago Bears. And that's going to be up to Jaylon to show. Like, Ben Johnson has talked glowingly about Jaylon and, what Jaylon could do in his scheme. And I think that's a much like with Tremaine Edmonds, when you have a new coach that looks at what you do, that's removing the expectations, removing what happened under other coaching staffs, and just looking at how you can fit into what they want you to do. Could be a new lease on life, and hopefully Jaylon's going to be somebody who definitely benefits from that as well. Surprisingly, undrafted free agent J.P. Richardson. Now, keep in mind, I talked about this guy when the Bears signed him as a UDFA and what he could bring here. But apparently that he showed out in day one as well. Catching some good passes when it came down to it. But he's undrafted out of TCU. He made what many people are saying is the play of the day when he caught a pass from Tyson Bagent with one hand while diving to the ground. And, he was being covered by Jeremiah Walker in that as well, but he made the play anyway. Not a lot. Like, J.P. Richardson's going to have a uphill battle to make it to the Chicago Bears' actual final 53-man roster. Now, could he make a practice squad? Maybe. And, I'm not going to count out anybody. It is what it is. But, the fact that we're hearing more about J.P. Richardson than even Tyler Scott so far in this offseason, I think says a lot there. And make no mistake, I do think that if Tyler Scott is not surprising in practice and playing well in practice, that spot could go to undrafted free agent. I would not be surprised in that at all. So J.P. Richardson really standing out in day one of training camp. But the person who stood out the most in training camp was Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, who, hit everything that you're hearing from day one of Bears training camp is that the high standards that we expected Ben Johnson to set, he's actually set, right? Pulling Caleb Williams and the entire starting offense off the field in 7-on-7s, we'll get into a little bit more. Being somebody who's been vocal, who is paying attention to the details of the game. Ben Johnson is not going to accept sloppiness in his offense, and that's something that was evident in day one of training camp, that he's not going to take that. He's not going to allow for that. It's not going to be, we're not going to have the thing where we allow those habits to become normal or expectations for the Chicago Bears. He pulled that out right away. He eliminated that and is basically saying, listen, this is not how we're going to play football. It's just not how Bears football is going to be ran as long as I'm the one running Bears football in here. Hey, I'll tell you this, I'm glad to hear it. You need somebody who's going to set a standard like that, and that's what you need for your team. That's what you need for your franchise. And so to hear that Ben Johnson is basically not taking no shit, that's my coach. That's what you want to hear from it when it comes down to it. You want to hear him do that. And Ben is not going to play. Now, I think you're setting that expectation early, right? And, even saying things like this is stuff we should know, right? You're done, right? Him saying that you're done. And while, the tough love, you're going to need to balance that out, right? You don't always want to be the coach that's just yelling and doing those type of things. When you're trying to set a standard, when you're trying to set goals, and build a culture, you need to hop on those things early. And that seems like something that Ben Johnson is. Now, the bigger question is how the starters are going to respond over the next couple of days to what happened here, and what happened in day one of practice. That's going to be the big thing, right? So many, it's alarming and concerning, but those alarms and concerns are supposed to be there early. And now it's how you get to work on those. And that's going to be the telling part of all of this for not only Ben Johnson as a head coach, but for this offense. Ben Johnson is going to command execution from this offense. When you get as creative as what Ben Johnson does, you have to have execution from top to bottom. And if that falters at all, that's where your offense can completely go by the wayside. And that's what the Bears are rightfully so trying to avoid here. And we're going to keep that going. So seeing how now the starters respond to this, it is what it is. It's first day. It's going to be a little sloppy. You're learning a whole new offense. You have a whole new offense because you don't want to carry over anything from Shane Waldron's offense because it was so damn stagnant, right? So you're learning a whole new offense, whole new playbook, whole new expectations. And keep in mind, too, that we know that Caleb Williams is going to be under center a lot more this year than any time that he's ever played football. So that's going to be part of that learning curve, too. But having a guy like Ben Johnson to be the leader of that and to forge that path going forward makes me feel comfortable because I think Ben Johnson is going to be a guy he's not going to take the shit, and he's going to want his offense to operate smoothly. We've talked before about how long it takes everything to get to be a well-oiled machine, right? And sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you're talking about weeks 3 and 4 into the regular season. But Ben Johnson strikes me as a guy that is going to want to get over as much as that hump as what he can. The training camp, the preseason, it's not going to be taken as just layups as they have before under like Matt Eberflus. I completely expect, and I'm not saying that the starters are going to all of a sudden play 90% of the snaps or anything in preseason, but best believe execution is going to be taken a lot more seriously, I think, under this new coaching staff in Declan Doyle, Ben Johnson, Eric Bieniemy, than what it has before. And we'll see how that's going to go. But that's the standout so far as reported from day one of training camp. We'll see how day 2 goes. We'll be live after day 2 of training camp today. But with that said, we talked a lot about the expectation that Ben Johnson is setting for the offense and how verbal he's being on what he expects and wants to see from his team. Well, it seems like Dennis Allen is also doing that. And speaking to the media after day 1 of training camp, he said this: You have to pay the toll. You have to pay the price. It's a privilege to be on this defense. Training camp is going to be difficult. Let me read that again. You have to pay the toll. You have to pay the price. It's a privilege to be on this defense. Listen, as much as I just talked about being happy to hear a guy like Ben Johnson set a tone, set an expectation, set what he expects from his team to play and to be like. That quote from Ben Johnson, take that out, print that on the wall, put that above the locker room as you walk into it and walk out of it every single day, something that everybody has to see, because yes, it should be a privilege to play on this defense. We talked about Ben Johnson. Dennis Allen, I say it every single time he comes up. Dennis Allen does not play games on the defensive side of the ball. He is as creative defensive mind as Ben Johnson is an offensive mind. And to see these two guys be coaching on the same team is going to be fun. You talk about setting a tone. Dennis Allen is definitely setting that tone for what he wants his defense to look like, operate like, and it is. And it's needed. The Bears defense ranked 27th in total defense last year. We allowed 354 yards per game. And then you look at the run defense, which absolutely struggled. We were 28th against the run, allowing over 130 yards per game last year. So no doubt the changes that we made on defense, bringing in Deo, Grady Jarrett, right? Drafting Shamar Turner, seeing what Ruben and Hippolyte's going to be like, how we're going to use these cornerbacks that we did, getting better health, all those things. But you have to have the right mindset. You have to have the right mentality. What if I always said, I want to get back to being the monsters of the Midway. I may have been a running back playing football, but you know what? Defense is what's always been the bread and butter of this team. Now, of course, we want to have a creative offense too. We don't want to let the offense fall behind, but you have to set a certain standard if you want to be on the Chicago Bears defense. And hopefully Dennis Allen and his staff is the staff that gets you back to being that, gets you back to being prominent on the defensive side of the ball. It used to be that teams that it was almost just assumed the Bears are going to have a top 10 defense. That's not the assumption anymore, and it shouldn't be the assumption. I want to be clear. You have to go out there and earn that every single day. But we need to get back to that. And so it seemed like seemingly like the biggest thing coming out of training camp so far, it's only one day, but the biggest thing is the expectation that this coaching staff has, the accountability that's going to be in that room, in the coaching staff. That is one of the most important things here. And that's something that I look at and I say, hey, man, if you can get to that and you're setting that on day one of training camp, and we heard it in rookie mini camp, right? Like rookie mini camp is one of the things you hear a little bit of things before you keep it going. But Eric Bieniemy, Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen, these are guys that have been vocal since day one, since they took this thing over. And so, I know that there's some concerns and things like that coming out of hearing a little bit that we heard from training camp and stuff like that. But listen, that's going to happen. It's going to happen. But I think that overall, like, we have the right guys in place, and they're already starting to show how that can pay off for the Chicago Bulls, Bears, how that can pay off for this team, how that can transform a mentality. That's what you want here. That's what you have to get to. And so hearing that is good. Now, we've had some things that were concerning as well. We talked about the good, some of the bad. The fact that Luther Burden wasn't on the field. Jaylon Johnson, no real positive injury update there. Now, we've heard good things too. Ozzie Trapillo looks good with the first team. We talked about even Roshan and some of the people stepping up there. So it's been good and bad. And I think that's perfectly fine. The Jaylon Johnson thing is I'm not going to say it's a concern, right? That's maybe too strong of a word, but I just really want to know what's going on there with Jaylon Johnson. But, it seems like, it is what it is. This one came from Courtney Cronin, who says that the Bears, before training camp even opens, the Bears have lost Jaylon Johnson to a leg injury for multiple weeks, saying this. Poe said that the Bears aren't overly concerned about any long-term issues that could impact Johnson's return. We've got a lot of faith that he's going to put in the time to rehab and be his full self when he comes back. So it sucks to hear that, but that does open up opportunities for other players. It opens up opportunities for Zay Frazier to show what he can bring in. He's another guy dealing with some injury. We brought in Trey Flowers as to be a veteran who stepped into Jaylon Johnson's role so far. But, especially I know that my Bears fans that heard about Jaylon Johnson talking about a new contract and now hear that he's going to be out multiple weeks due to a leg injury, probably looking at it and saying, hey, this is why you chill out a little bit, my boy, even though it hasn't been nearly as bad as what people have said. But, expectations are still going to be high for Jaylon Johnson. It sucks hearing that he suffered I'm not going to say serious. I guess if you miss multiple times, it's serious enough. But it's not like a hugely concerning injury to Jaylon Johnson. It just sucks that he's not gonna be out there. But the Luther Burden thing is also quite puzzling. I know he fell on the ball. He has that soft tissue injury and stuff like that. But we got to see what's going on when it comes to that. But it seems like he did arrive at training camp. He's in shape, so there's no doubt about that. That comes from Hogan Johns that he arrived in training camp, in shape and is ready to go. So that's good when it comes down to it. But seems like there could be some concern on how much he's going to be off the field, and we'll see what happens with that. It just sucks that we're dealing with another thing early in the season, before the season even really starts as far as injuries. But this is what training camp is for. It's camp. It's there to help you get ready for the season. Not everybody's going to play in the preseason. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden it's going to be a huge thing going into the season. But watching these two guys, and Jaylon Johnson and Luther Burden, and their injuries heading into next season, I guess we'll see what's going to happen, man. I guess we're going to see what will happen there. Jaylon is a big one though. Hearing that they're not concerned about it lingering on is good, and it should calm and qualm a little bit of that. Luther Burden's just missing so much time. Jaylon's a vet, so even if Jaylon does miss, let's say, 2 preseason games or something like that, again, not reporting on that, I'm just saying what if, right? You're missing 2 preseason games or something like that. He's a veteran. He's going to, put in the work to understand the playbook. He's going to be okay. Luther Burden, though, is missing so much time. So much time. Colson Loveland out there, he's on his ramp-up period, but Luther, you really do need Luther Burden to be locked in. Now, you do have Olamide Zaccheaus down there, which I think is a good thing to have Olamide there. And so you have a guy that's already prepared and ready to go in that slot position. But overall, Burden's just missed so much time, so much opportunity to build chemistry with Caleb Williams. So much of that already. And while I have no doubt that Luther is going to be a player that Ben Johnson's going to love, we're going to see a lot of Luther Burden all over the field once he is healthy. That missed time it just means that it could be a longer process going into the season until he really finds his rhythm. Right now, hopefully that's not going to happen. Maybe Luther Burden's this amazing guy that just understands the playbook so much and builds that chemistry to where he's able to hit the ground running. But having him and Colson Loveland, 2 guys that were both shaped up to be, still shaped up to be pretty big as far as in the Chicago Bears game plan. It sucks to hear that there are already, absences and things like that that's happening, but we'll see. Luther Burden dealing with, he's already had 2 separate injuries during spring that forced him to miss OTAs and minicamp. And so, the soft tissue injury, I know that doesn't sound like much, but, it's a little concerning that we still haven't seen him on the football field. But you guys can let me know how you feel about that. Overall, hopefully it's nothing that lingers on too long. Maybe in a couple of weeks we're not even talking about it when it comes down to it, and we're going into the season ready to go. One thing that I do want to talk about before we talk about one release that the Bears have already made is that Caleb Williams and what Ben Johnson has laid out for Caleb Williams, and I think that's good. Ben Johnson said this in regards to Caleb and a goal that he has for Caleb. I told him I would love for him this season to complete 70% of his balls. Pause. So you would like to think that over the course of practice, we're completing 70% or more, or that's hard, or just magically arise in game. It's a lofty goal, but it's one we're going to strive for. Because of that, we're going to use that as a benchmark and kind of work from there. When you look at Caleb Williams last year, he was 31st among 36 qualifying quarterbacks in completion percentage at 62.5%. He did throw for 3,000 yards, which 20 touchdowns. So hearing Ben Johnson have a goal set of over 70% completion rate, I mean, that's good. And I think that it's how you get there is going to be important. I do think what we've seen Caleb be in those quicker, more simpler throws. That's what you're going to have to do to kind of boost Caleb Williams' confidence, boost that rhythm as well. And we're going to see a lot of that. 12 personnel set is going to help with that. Spreading things out is going to help with that. The check downs, going to your running backs in the passing game, that's all going to help with that. So we'll see, right? Only 5 quarterbacks completed 70% of their passes last season. And so, that's a lofty goal for that. And one of those guys was Jared Goff, who was Ben Johnson's starting quarterback last season. So, it seems like Ben Johnson is setting the goals not only to be a decent starter, but to be an upper echelon starter. Now, Caleb Williams talked about his goals as himself. He said this: obviously, I have self goals, and that's being the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history. That's a goal of mine. 70% completion helps the team, keeps us on the field, puts us in better positions, and then other than that, just trying to go down and score the most points that we can with each drive that we have. That's kind of my self-goal, and obviously, other than that, you got to go win. That success for me, that success for the team. So alignment. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams in alignment there. You love to hear that. You want to see that they both agree on the goal. So hearing Caleb Williams hear that 70% completion goal and saying, listen, that helps my team, right? That helps us get in position to score. That's what it is. Yeah, I have my personal goal of throwing for 4,000 yards, but the goal that it sets for the team, that's what we're going here for. So we'll see if Caleb can do it. We'll see. I already know the Caleb naysayers had their field day with what we heard from yesterday, but we'll see what happens when it comes down to it. Last thing, the Bears have already made one cut to their roster, and they cut Tavarius Moore. They have released Tavarius Moore, and no real big surprises there. I mean, you're going to see guys drop off. Here leading into the Bears don't have the NFL no longer has set dates where you have to be down by this number. It's just one overall cut date, but the Bears are going to probably make a little bit of cuts when it comes down to that. Tavarius Moore was a defensive back. That is one of the deepest positions that we have, and bringing in Trey Flowers, you had to make a cut there. So it's no surprise there. He did join the Bears in the spring of 2024, so he's been here for about a year, but the Bears have now made that cut. Move on. It's nothing there. So we'll see what else happens, what other cuts happen. We'll be here. Make sure you guys stay in tune with us. You guys can follow us at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave us a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.